I don't remember my childhood. Not the way most people don't remember. Individual days, faces, smells. I remember nothing. From age 6 to 13, a void. 7 years cut out of my life like pages from a book. My parents told me I went to school, that I had friends, that I loved baseball. I believe them, but I don't remember any of it, as if it happened to someone else. I'm 47 now, and for the last 3 years, my memory has been coming back. Not all of it, in fragments. At night, in dreams, in nightmares that don't feel like nightmares. Because nightmares don't leave smells behind. Mine do. Chlorine, metal, and something else I have no name for. Something sweet, like air pushed through something dead. My doctor says it's post-traumatic stress disorder, repressed memories. My brain was protecting me from something that happened in childhood, and now, with age, the protection is cracking. He says, something happened to you between the ages of 6 and 13. Something so severe that your brain chose to erase everything rather than keep it. A normal process, documented. Nothing supernatural. But my doctor can't explain why I know the layout of a building I've never been inside. Why I can draw from memory a corridor with 12 doors, each one numbered, each one color-coded. Why, when I first saw a photograph of Camp Hero in Montauk, the radar tower, the grey concrete, the barbed wire, my heart stopped for 1.5 seconds. Literally. I was wearing a monitor after my first heart attack. 1.5 seconds without a beat. As if my body recognized that place before my brain did. I'll tell you what I remember. Not all of it, because not all of it has come back. And maybe, not all of it should. I grew up in East Hampton, Long Island, a small town on the eastern tip of the island, 40 minutes from Montauk. My father worked as an electrical equipment technician, including on Department of Defense sites, including Camp Hero. I learned this later, much later. My mother worked at the library, an ordinary family, an ordinary house, an ordinary childhood. Or so they told me. The first thing I remember from that period, or rather, the first thing that came back, is a sound. A low, monotone hum. Not like a machine, not like wind. Deeper, as if the air itself were vibrating. I heard it in a dream 3 years ago, woke up in cold sweat and realized I knew that sound. Not heard it once, knew it. The way you know your own name. A week later, a second fragment. A corridor, long, concrete, lit by fluorescent tubes that made everything look a sickly green. Doors on both sides, metal, heavy, with small windows of reinforced glass. Each one numbered, white digits on a blue plate. I was standing in that corridor. Small. I was maybe 8, maybe 9. I wasn't alone. Other children stood beside me. Boys, all roughly the same age, all wearing the same grey clothes. No one was speaking. That fragment lasted about 5 seconds. Then, blackness. Waking up, the smell of chlorine on my pillow. That wasn't there. I started writing them down, every fragment, in a notebook. Date, time, what I saw, what I felt, what I smelled. Over 3 years, I've collected 147 entries. 147 pieces of memory, each lasting 3 to 20 seconds. Like a film someone cut into tiny pieces and scattered. From those 147, I can reconstruct the following. I was taken from home. Not every day, but regularly. I don't remember who took me or how. I only remember the moment of return, standing on the porch of my house, morning, sunlight, and I don't know where I've been. Every time, as if someone stopped the recording and started it somewhere else. My parents didn't notice, or didn't remember, or, and this thought has been poisoning my life for the past 2 years, they knew. When I asked my mother, 2 years ago, she was still alive then, she looked at me with an expression I cannot forget. Not surprise, not confusion, fear. She was afraid of my question. And she said, "Don't, Marcus. Please. Don't dig." Not, "What are you talking about?" Not, "What memory gaps?" She didn't ask me to clarify. She understood immediately. As if she'd been waiting for that question for 30 years. I think, but I don't know for certain, that my father agreed to something. Maybe they told him it was a medical program, a screening for gifted children. Maybe they paid him. We never had money. And then, in the late 80s, a new house suddenly appeared. Maybe they erased his memory the same way they erased mine. I don't know. He died in 2011. I didn't get to ask. Or didn't dare. Montauk, Camp Hero, a military base on the very edge of Long Island, closed in 1981. Officially, a Cold War radar station, a massive antenna, concrete bunkers, underground levels. After decommissioning, it was turned into a state park. You can visit, walk around, look at the ocean. But beneath the park, tunnels. This isn't a theory, it's a fact. Military installations of that level always have underground infrastructure. The only question is, what happened in those tunnels? In 1992, a man named Preston Nichols published a book, The Montauk Project, Experiments in Time. He claimed the base hosted experiments in consciousness, telepathy, time manipulation, that they used a device he called the Montauk chair, which amplified a subject's brain waves to a level that could affect reality itself, that the test subjects were children, runaways from the streets, children of base employees, children from families in surrounding towns, those whose parents worked at the facility and signed papers they didn't read, or read them and signed anyway. They were called the Montauk Boys. When I first read that book, 14 months ago, I had my second heart attack. Not metaphorically. I was sitting in a chair, reading, and my heart stopped for 3 seconds. My wife called an ambulance. I don't believe in telepathy. I don't believe in time travel. I'm a rational man who pays his taxes and watches football. But I knew the layout of those tunnels before I ever saw the diagram. I knew the color of the doors before I read the description. I knew the smell, chlorine and that sweet dead air, before Nichols described it in his book. Either I'm insane and my brain is constructing false memories around what I've read, or I was there. Fragment number 23. It returned in November, 2 years ago. A room. Small, square, windowless. Concrete walls, concrete floor, concrete ceiling. One piece of furniture, a chair. Not an ordinary chair, large, metal, with armrests fitted with straps. Wires ran from the chair to the wall, and from the wall through a hole into an adjacent room. I'm sitting in the chair. I'm maybe 10. The straps are fastened on my wrists, not painful, just tight. I'm not screaming, not crying, not struggling. As if I'm used to it. As if I've sat here many times before. Beside me, a man in a white coat. I don't remember his face. I remember his hands, large, with short nails, a wedding ring on his right hand. He's doing something with the wires. Then he places something on my head. A helmet? A band? I can't recall the shape. I remember the sensation, cold metal on my temples. And then, the hum. The same one. Low, monotone, penetrating the inside of my skull. Not through the ears, through the bones. A vibration that sets your teeth on edge. And voices, not from outside, from inside. Inside my head. Not words, images. As if someone were projecting pictures directly into my consciousness. I can't describe what I saw, not because I don't remember, because there are no words for it. It was as if someone opened a door to a room that shouldn't exist and showed me what was behind it. The fragment cuts off. Waking up. 3 a.m. Pillow soaked. Blood running from my nose. Nosebleeds. It happened after every fragment like that. I went to the doctor. MRI, blood work, full examination. Results. Normal. Brain is fine. Blood vessels are fine. You experience elevated blood pressure at night. Probably stress. I didn't tell him about the chair, about the tunnels, about the boys in grey clothes, because I knew what he'd say. False memories, post-traumatic response, possible onset of a disorder. I'd recommend a therapist. But here's what the doctor couldn't explain. On the back of my head, 2 small, round scars, each about 5 millimeters in diameter, symmetrical, exactly 7 centimeters apart. I noticed them by accident when I got a short haircut for the first time in 20 years. I asked my mother where they came from. She went pale, said I fell off my bike when I was 7. 2 scars, symmetrical, round, exactly 7 centimeters apart. From falling off a bicycle. I didn't argue. Fragment number 71. It returned 6 months ago, the longest yet. About 30 seconds. The same corridor, the same doors. But I'm not standing at the beginning. I'm at the end, where the corridor terminates not in a wall, but in another door. A large one. Double. No window. No number. Red. I'm standing in front of it. I'm not alone. 2 other boys beside me. One I don't remember. The other, I do. Red hair, freckles, about 11 years old. He was shaking. Not from cold. From something else. His eyes were wide open, and his lips trembled, as if he were trying to say something but couldn't. Behind the red door, a sound. Not the hum. Something different. Something alive. Not a mechanism. A presence. As if behind the door was a room, and in the room was something that breathed. Something large. Something that knew we were standing on the other side. The door began to open. Slowly. From inside, the fragment cuts off. I woke up on the floor beside my bed. Blood from my nose, blood from my left ear. My wife beside me, panicking. She said I'd been screaming in my sleep. Not words, a sound. The same one over and over, high, drawn out, like an animal caught in the trap. I don't remember what was behind the red door, but my body remembers, because every time I close my eyes and picture that door, my hands start shaking. Not from fear, from something deeper, from knowledge that never passed through consciousness, but got lodged somewhere, in the muscles, in the bones, in the spine. My body knows what's behind that door, and it doesn't want my mind to find out. 3 months ago, I drove to Montauk, for the first time in my life, as far as I know. Camp Hero, State Park, open to visitors. You can come, walk around, look at the ocean. I went alone. My wife didn't know. I told her I was going for work. The park looks ordinary. Trees, paths, benches. The radar tower, massive, white, like something extraterrestrial. Old bunkers overgrown with grass. Information signs about World War II and the Cold War. Tourists taking photos. Children running around. Nothing sinister. But when I approached a certain building, grey, concrete, windows welded shut, my legs stopped. I didn't make the decision to stop. My body did it on its own, as if it recognized the place before I did. I stood in front of that building, and I felt. Didn't see, didn't hear, felt. The smell, chlorine, and that sweet, dead air. It wasn't there. The wind carried the scent of ocean and grass. But my brain, or whatever lives inside my brain and wakes up at night, sensed chlorine. Like phantom pain in an amputated limb. A smell that isn't there, but is more real than what is. I stood there for 20 minutes, then went inside. The building is open, part of the park, visitors welcome. Empty rooms, concrete walls, graffiti. Tourists walked past me, photographing the walls. I found the staircase going down. It was blocked. A metal grate, a padlock, a sign reading "Entry Prohibited." Beyond the grate, darkness, steps descending. I stepped up to the grate, put my hands on the bars, and in that moment, a fragment. Not at night, not in a dream, in broad daylight, for the first time. I'm standing here, small, in grey clothes. There is no grate. The staircase is open. Ahead of me, a man in a white coat. He's leading me down. Behind me, 3 more boys. We descend. The hum grows louder with every step. The air grows thicker. Chlorine, metal, and that sweetness that makes you want to hold your breath. The fragment lasted 4 seconds. Then, reality. The grate, the padlock, the sign, my fingers on the bars. White from gripping, and blood from my nose. Right there, in the bunker, in front of the grate, in broad daylight. I drove away from Montauk that same day. The whole ride home I was shaking, not from cold, from what I'd understood. My fragments are not false memories, not post-traumatic stress. not the product of my imagination after reading conspiracy books. I recognized the building, not from a photograph, physically. My body recognized it. My legs knew where to stop. My hands knew the grate. My nose knew the smell. I was there, as a child, many times, and what they did to me erased 7 years of my memory. 7 years in which, according to my parents, I lived a normal life, went to school, played baseball. But I don't remember a single day. And here's what haunts me most. Not the chair, not the wires, not the red door. The question. If they erased my memory, then the technology worked. They knew how to erase memories, successfully, completely, for decades. Then why are my memories coming back now? What if the protection isn't cracking from age, like my doctor says? What if someone removed it deliberately? What if someone wants me to remember? And what if what I'm remembering isn't a leak, but a transmission? I found 3 others. Through the internet, through forums, through private groups you can't access without a referral. 3 men, roughly my age, from Long Island, all with gaps in childhood memory, all with fragments that began returning in adulthood, all with nosebleeds. We corresponded for a month, then had a call. One is named Brent, another Javier. The third asked that his name not be used. Brent described the corridor. The same corridor. The same doors, the same numbers, the same greenish light. He described it before I showed him my notes. Detail for detail. Javier described the chair, the straps, the cold metal on the temples, the hum. He cried while telling it. A 49-year-old man crying like a child, because his body remembered what his mind had been trying to forget. The third, the one with no name, described the red door. He's the only other person besides me who saw it in his fragments. He said the door opened. He said he saw what was behind it. I asked him what he saw. He was silent for 12 seconds, I counted. Then he said, "Nothing." Behind the door was nothing. But that nothing was looking at me. And it knew my name. A week after our conversation, he stopped responding. Account deleted. Number disconnected. Brent tried to find him through contacts. Nothing. Another Montauk boy disappeared. Again. I don't know what they did in the tunnels beneath Camp Hero. I don't know what device sat in that room. I don't know what was behind the red door. But I know this. The mkultra program, the CIA's experiments in mind control, was real. This is not a conspiracy theory. These are declassified documents, thousands of pages. They experimented on people without consent, used drugs, hypnosis, electric current, broke minds apart and reassembled them. This happened from 1953 to 1973. Officially. The Montauk Project, if it existed, began after mkultra. Where the CIA stopped, someone else continued, with better equipment, with greater ambitions, and with children. This isn't science fiction, it's logic. If you have the tools for working with consciousness, and you want results, and ethics don't constrain you, you use those whose brains are still forming. Children. I was one of those children. And what I'm beginning to remember tells me one thing. They achieved results. They learned to erase memory. They learned to project images into another person's mind. And they learned to open doors that should have stayed shut. The last fragment returned last night. Number 148. The clearest of all. As if someone adjusted the focus.
The red-haired boy.
The one with freckles, who stood beside me in front of the red door. He's sitting in the chair. Straps. Wires. The band on his head. His eyes are closed. His face calm, as if he's sleeping. And then he opens his mouth, and out comes a sound. Not his voice, something else. Low, deep, impossible for a child. As if someone were speaking through him, or something. The men in white coats step back. One drops his clipboard. The hum in the room rises to an unbearable pitch, and the boy opens his eyes. And his eyes are black, completely. Iris, whites, all black, as if inside him was the very darkness that had been behind the red door, as if it had come through and found itself a home. The fragment cuts off. I woke up, blood from my nose, blood from my ears, and a sensation, not a thought, a sensation, as if someone were standing in the corner of my bedroom, invisible, inaudible, but there. I turned on the light. Empty. But on my pillow, beside the bloodstains, lay a drawing. A child's drawing. In pencil. A chair, wires, a small figure with circles for eyes. I didn't draw it. I checked my hands, fingers clean. No pencil, no graphite. My wife was asleep. No one had entered. The drawing was done in a child's handwriting. My handwriting. The handwriting I used when I was 7. I recognized it from old postcards in a box at my mother's house. Handwriting I haven't used in 40 years. That's the story. For now. Because the fragments keep coming back. Every night, a new piece. And with every piece, I get closer to the red door. And to what's behind it. I don't want to remember. But I'm not being given a choice. Someone, or something, has decided the time has come. That the protection they put in me as a child is no longer needed. That I must see what they hid from me for 30 years. And here's what keeps me from sleeping. If the protection has been removed, then I'm no longer being protected. And if I'm no longer being protected, then whatever they were protecting me from can reach me. Maybe it's already here. Maybe the drawing on my pillow isn't my inner child crying out. Maybe it's what came through the red door 40 years ago and has been living, waiting, and has finally found its way back. Camp Hero is open to visitors. You can come, walk around, look at the ocean. But if you stand next to the grey building with the welded windows and smell chlorine where there should only be ocean air, leave. Because it means it remembers you too. Sweet dreams.